This is the moment to say something to you that comes not from a formula or a script, but from a genuine place of care for the person behind the screen. If this channel has been a part of your journey, if the words spoken here have been a companion to you in some of the harder stretches of the road, then you already know that what happens in this space is not content. It is ministry. It is the genuine outpouring of a calling that has been burning long enough and consistently enough through enough personal cost to have earned the right to say that it is real. That support was removed at the platform level, and the decision was entirely outside of our control. But the messages kept coming because the calling does not answer to algorithms or platform policies. It answers to God, and God keeps sending the chosen ones here, keeps orchestrating the moments when the right person finds the right message at the right time, keeps using this space as a meeting place between heaven and the hearts of people who are awake and searching and desperate to be met with something true. If you are one of those people, and everything in your spirit is telling you that you are, then you know what this space has meant. And if you feel moved in your heart to help sustain it, the donation link is in the description below and in the pinned comment on this video. It is there for those who feel genuinely called to partner with this work. There is no obligation, no condition, and no lesser blessing for those who do not. Every word here is freely given, but if something in you wants to sow into the continuation of this ministry, that act of generosity will be received as a sacred partnership in something that God is using to touch real lives in real moments. If you have been blessed by this message, like this video right now is a declaration that this word belongs to you and that you are receiving it in faith. Share it with someone whose face has come to your mind while you have been listening, because that face is not a coincidence. Heaven put them in your thoughts because they need this word, and you are the one being trusted to get it to them. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now, because the message that follows this one is going to carry something specifically for the next step of the journey you are now entering, and you do not want to miss it when it arrives. Beloved chosen one, before you hear another word from me, I want you to do something small and quiet. Take one slow breath. Let your shoulders come down from where they have been sitting all day, up around your ears, braced for the next thing. Nothing more is required of you in this moment. You are not being asked to explain yourself. You are not being asked to be strong for anyone. You have carried that assignment long enough, and for the length of this message, I want you to set it down on the floor beside you, because you did not arrive here by accident. I know how it looks. It looks like your thumb moved and a title appeared and you tapped it the way you have tapped 100 other things tonight, half awake, half hoping, mostly tired. But I want to tell you what I believe with my whole heart. There is a design running underneath your day that is older and steadier than your scrolling. The same God who set the stars in their courses and calls each one by name is not disorganized about the hours of your life. He is not careless with your timing. And the fact that these words are meeting your ears on this particular evening, after this particular day, with this particular weight still sitting on your chest, is not randomness. It is appointment. Heaven saw your courage today. I want you to hear that again slowly, because I know you are already arguing with it. I know exactly what you are thinking. You are thinking, what courage? You are thinking about how you cried in the car before you went inside. You are thinking about how your hands shook when you opened that letter. You are thinking about how you smiled at people all day while something inside you was quietly coming apart. You are thinking about how you did not feel brave even for one single minute. And so, Surely this message is meant for somebody else, somebody stronger, somebody further along. No, it is meant for you, and here is why. Courage has almost never looked the way we imagine it. We imagine courage as a raised voice and a straight back and a heart that does not tremble. But the courage that heaven records is usually much quieter than that. It is the courage of the person who got up anyway. The courage of the one who kept their word when breaking it would have been easier and cheaper, and nobody would have known. The courage of the one who did not become cruel, even after cruelty was done to them. The courage of the Curry. One who prayed one more time after 100 prayers seemed to go nowhere. The courage of the one who said, "I still believe," with a voice so small they could barely hear it themselves. That is the courage heaven saw today. Not the absence of your fear, your faithfulness in the middle of it. And there is something else the title of this message says, and I do not want us to move past it too quickly. Every attack lost its power. Not every attack stopped. Not every attack was canceled before it launched. Not every enemy repented and went home. The attack came. The attack landed. And somewhere in the landing, it lost the thing it was counting on. It lost its power. Chosen one, this is the pattern of God that so many people miss, and missing it costs them years of unnecessary despair. We keep asking God to remove the fire. God keeps answering by removing the fire's authority. We keep asking for the storm to be canceled. He keeps walking out onto the water in the middle of it. We keep begging to be spared the furnace, and again and again. The testimony of Scripture is not that his people were spared the furnace, but that they came out of it without the smell of smoke on their clothes. Do you understand what I am telling you? The thing that came for you today did not get what it came for. It came for your faith, and your faith is still here, bruised maybe, thinner than you would like, but here because you are listening to a message about God at the end of a hard day instead of numbing yourself into nothing. It came for your integrity, and you did not sell it, even when selling it would have solved a problem. It came for your gentleness, and you are still the kind of person who softens when someone hurts, even someone who hurt you. It came for your hope, and hope, flickering, low, unimpressive, but not out. The enemy of your soul does not fear your comfort. He fears your consistency. He can live with a believer who is happy. He cannot live with a believer who will not bow. So let me frame this whole message for you, so you know where we are going together. There is a story in the book of Daniel about 3 young men who stood on a wide plain in front of an entire empire, and every person around them went down on their faces, and they did not. And the punishment for that was a furnace. And the furnace was made 7 times hotter than it needed to be, and they were thrown and bound in their coats and their hats and their trousers, and the flames were so violent that the men who threw them in died at the mouth of the furnace. And then a king looked into the fire and saw something that made him leap up from his throne in astonishment, and everything he thought he knew about power was undone in a single moment. That story is going to be the ground under our feet tonight. But I want you to know from the very beginning that I am not telling it as history. I am telling it as a mirror. Because somewhere in your life, there is a plane where everybody bowed and you did not. Somewhere in your life, there is a decree you refused to obey. Somewhere in your life, there is a furnace that has been heated hotter for you than it seems to be heated for anyone else. And you have been quietly wondering what you did wrong to deserve that extra heat. I want to suggest to you tonight that the extra heat was never a sign of God's displeasure. It was a sign of your significance. Nobody heats a furnace 7 times hotter for a person who does not matter. Beloved, look at the hour you are in right now. It is late, Something in your day is unresolved. You have questions you have stopped asking out loud because the people around you do not know how to answer them, and you are tired of watching them get uncomfortable. And yet here you are, still leaning in, still listening, still willing to let God speak. That is not weakness. That is the posture of someone who has not surrendered their soul. The night is not the enemy you think it is. The night is where God does some of his most careful work. The scripture says that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, and it is written that way in the book of Psalms chapter 30 verse 5. And I want you to notice that God does not deny the weeping. He does not correct the person for weeping. He simply puts a boundary on it for a night, not forever for a night. You are in a night. Nights end, not because you are strong enough to end them, but because the earth keeps turning toward the sun, whether or not you believe in the morning. That is what grace is like. It is not waiting on your optimism. It is already on its way. So awaken, chosen one, not into panic, into awareness. Become aware that you are being watched over and not merely watched. Become aware that the thing you survived this week was not survived by accident. Become aware that the strange peace you felt in the middle of the worst hour, the peace you could not explain and did not manufacture, had a source, and the source has a name. Become aware that the door that closed on you was not a rejection of you, but a redirection of you. Become aware that you are inside a story that is being written with far more skill than you can see from the middle of the page. For the rest of this message, I am going to walk with you slowly. We will look at the fire. We will look at what God was saying through it. We will look at the signs in your own life that the attack has already lost its authority. I will tell you a story about an ordinary person carrying ordinary weight, and I think you will recognize yourself in it. We will stand together at the emotional center of this thing, and I will remind you, with everything in me, that you were never abandoned. We will read the words of God Himself. We will let healing begin, and then we will pray, and I will bless you, and you will go into your rest differently than you came into this hour. But before any of that, hear this one sentence and let it settle all the way down. You were not overlooked today. Heaven saw. Heaven saw the whole thing. Heaven saw the part nobody else saw. The part you never mentioned to anyone. The part you have already half convinced yourself did not matter. Heaven saw it, and heaven called it courage, and heaven wrote it down. And the attack that came against you, whatever shape it wore, whatever voice it used, whatever letter it arrived in, has already lost the only power it ever really had, which was the power to make you stop believing. You are still believing, so it has already lost. Stay with me, beloved. Let us walk into the fire together and see who is already standing in there waiting for us. If this message has reminded you of a light within yourself that you may have forgotten or hidden away for far too long, take a moment now and like this video as a way of honoring that recognition. Share it with someone in your life who needs to be reminded that their light still matters, even if they have spent years believing otherwise. Subscribe if you want to continue this journey of awakening together, message by message, as more of these reflections continue to unfold. And if this channel has meant something to you, you are always welcome to support its continued growth through the donation link in the description below or pinned in the comments. With no obligation attached, simply an open door for those who wished to help this work continue. There is a wide, flat place in the province of Babylon called the Plain of Dura. And I want you to see it before we go any further, because the setting is doing something the words alone cannot do. Imagine a plain so open that there is nowhere to hide, no trees, no hills, no shadow to step into. just packed earth stretching out until it disappears into the heat, and standing in the middle of it, catching the sun, a statue of gold 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide. That is roughly the height of a 9-story building, a column of gold rising out of flat ground so that it can be seen from any direction, from any distance by anybody. It was not built to be beautiful. It was built to be unavoidable. King Nebuchadnezzar had built it. This was the same king who not long before had been shown a dream by God himself, a dream of a great image with a head of gold. And Daniel had told him plainly that the head of gold was his own kingdom, and that other kingdoms would come after him. And it seems the king could not live with that. If God said his kingdom was only the head, then he would build a statue that was gold from the crown all the way to the feet. He would answer the vision of God with a monument of his own. Pride is very often just an argument with something true that we heard once and could not accept. Then he summoned everyone, the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces. Every layer of authority in the empire was called to stand on that plain, and a herald cried aloud, and the command was simple. When you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the psaltery, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall do. Same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Notice how the command was designed. It came with music. That detail has never left me. The empire did not force people to bow with whips. It gave them a beautiful sound and told them that when the beautiful sound played, everyone goes down. The pressure to conform is almost never ugly at the moment it arrives. It arrives as a song. It arrives as everybody else already doing it. It arrives as the reasonable thing, the smooth thing, the thing that keeps your job and keeps the peace, and keeps you from being the difficult one in the room. And the music played, and the plain of Dura went down like a field of wheat under wind. Thousands of people, all at once, faces to the ground, and 3 men were still standing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those were not even their real names. Their true names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and every one of those names carried the name of God inside it. Hananiah means the Lord is gracious. Mishael means who is like God. Azariah means the Lord has helped. When Babylon took them, Babylon renamed them after Babylonian gods, because that is what captivity always tries to do. It tries to take your name off you and put another name on. It tries to make you forget whose you are by changing what you are called. But you can change a man's name without changing his allegiance. You can put him in the king's college, feed him the king's food, teach him the king's language, and promote him into the king's government. And still, when the music plays, he will not bend. Certain Chaldeans came forward and accused them. That is worth pausing on too. These 3 had done nothing to those men. Their only crime was that they had been promoted, and their promotion had made room in someone's heart for envy. The accusation was carefully constructed. They reminded the king of his own decree first, so that the king could not back down without losing face. And only then did they name the 3. There are Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon. And these men, O king, have not regarded you. They serve not your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage and fury, and he commanded that they be brought. And then, interestingly, he offered them a second chance. He said, "If you are ready, when you hear the music, to fall down and worship, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." And then he asked the question that every proud power eventually asks, "And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" Their answer is one of the most remarkable statements in the whole of Scripture, and I want you to hear it carefully, because it is the exact reason this story belongs to your day. In Daniel chapter 3, verse 16 through 18, they answered and said, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to you in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. But if not, chosen one, that is the sentence that separates convenient faith from settled faith. They did not say, God will definitely rescue us, therefore we will stand. They said, God is able, and we believe he will, and even if he does not, we still will not bow. Their obedience was not a payment made in exchange for a guaranteed outcome. Their obedience was an expression of who God is, whether or not the outcome arrived. Then the king's countenance changed, and he commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times more than it was normally heated. He commanded the strongest men in his army to bind them, and they were bound in their coats, their hosen, their hats, and their other garments, and they were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire killed the men who carried them up. And these 3 fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Read that again in your heart. They fell. They actually fell. The sentence was not commuted at the last second. There was no rescue at the doorway. There was no lightning from heaven that stopped the guards. They went all the way in. I need you to hold on to that, because I suspect one of the deepest wounds you carry is that God did not stop something. He did not stop the diagnosis. He did not stop the layoff. He did not stop the lie that was told about you from spreading. He let you fall all the way in, and you have never fully forgiven him for that, even if you have never said so out loud. Stay with the story. Something happens inside the fire that never happens outside of it. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste and spoke to his counselors, saying, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said, True, O king. He answered and said, in Daniel chapter 3, verse 25, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. 4, not 3, 4. And they were loose. The only thing the fire consumed was the ropes. And they were walking, not screaming, not running for the door, not crouched in a corner. Walking the way you walk in a garden in the evening, unhurried, in company. Then the king came near to the mouth of the furnace, and called them by the name of the God they served. And they came out, and all the princes and governors and captains, and the king's counselors gathered together to look at these men. And what they saw is recorded in verse 27, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. The fire had no power. That is the sentence in this entire chapter that our title is standing on, upon whose bodies the fire had no power. The fire was real. The heat was real. It had just killed trained soldiers at the entrance. But when it came to these 3, it had no jurisdiction. It could burn what bound them, and it could burn nothing else. And Nebuchadnezzar, the man who had asked, Who is that God who can deliver you out of my hands? Answered his own question. He blessed the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him, and who had yielded their bodies rather than serve any god except their own God. Then, in verse 30, the king promoted them in the province of Babylon. Do you see the movement of that story? They were accused because of their promotion. and they were promoted because of their accusation. The very thing the enemy used to pull them down became the platform they were raised on. That is not luck. That is the signature of God, and once you learn to recognize it, you start seeing it everywhere in Scripture, and eventually, you start seeing it in your own history. There is a promise in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 2, that reads like it was written to be laid directly on top of this story. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon you. Notice what God does not promise. He does not promise no water. He does not promise no fire. He promises through, and he promises with. Through the waters, through the fire, I will be with you. Beloved, the God of the Bible has never been primarily in the business of preventing your hard season. He has been in the business of removing its authority over you and of walking in it beside you until it burns itself out on the ropes that were holding your hands. So what is God actually saying to you through this on this night in your particular circumstances? Let us go slowly, because this is the heart of it. The first thing God is saying is this: presence is a greater gift than rescue, and you have been asking for the lesser thing. I say that with enormous gentleness, because I have asked for the lesser thing too. Every one of us has. When we are in pain, the only prayer that seems worth praying is, get me out. Get me out of this house. Get me out of this marriage. Get me out of this debt. Get me out of this diagnosis. Get me out of this loneliness. And God, who is not offended by that prayer and who welcomes it, very often answers a different way. He does not open the door. He comes inside. Look again at what the king saw. He did not see 3 men and a distant God waving at them. He saw 4 men walking together in the same fire. The 4th figure did not stay at the edge shouting instructions. The 4th figure did not hover safely above the flames. The 4th figure came all the way down into the same heat that had killed trained soldiers and walked in it unhurried, as if the fire were a garden path. That is the God you actually have. Not a God who supervises your suffering from a comfortable distance, but a God who has a history of entering it. That is the whole meaning of the incarnation. He did not shout salvation across the gap. He crossed it. He put on flesh and walked into a world that he knew was going to kill him. And he did it on purpose because his method has never been to avoid the fire, but to occupy it. The second thing God is saying is this: the fire was permitted to touch only what was binding you. Read that verse once more in your mind. They fell down bound into the fire, and the king saw them loose, walking. Somewhere between falling and walking, the ropes came off, and nobody untied them. The fire untied them. The very thing that was sent to destroy them became the only thing in the entire kingdom strong enough to free their hands. Chosen one, I want you to consider the possibility, and I know this is a hard thought, that some of the ropes on your life were never going to come off in comfort. There are attachments that only heat can loosen. There are securities that only loss can expose as false. There are relationships that only pressure can reveal. There are dependencies you could not name until the thing you were depending on was taken away. And then suddenly you could see it clearly for the first time. I am not saying God sent the harm. I am saying God is a master at reassigning it. He takes what was meant to bind you tighter and lets it burn the binding instead. That is not a small consolation. That is the great inversion at the center of the gospel, that a cross designed as the empire's ultimate instrument of humiliation became the doorway of the world's salvation. The third thing God is saying is this: your obedience was never a transaction, and the moment you understood that, the attack lost its leverage. Everything the enemy does in your life depends on one assumption: that you are only faithful because faithfulness pays. Every accusation ever made against a righteous person in Scripture runs along that line. Remember what was said about Job. Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge about him? Take away his things and he will curse you to your face. The whole strategy assumes that your loyalty is priced, and that, if the price is raised high enough, you will sell. But if not. When those three men said, "But if not," they cut the wire. In that one phrase, they told the empire and the accuser behind the empire that there was no pressure available in this world that could purchase their allegiance, because their allegiance had never been for sale in the first place. It was not a payment. It was a response to who God is. The moment you arrive at that place, and I believe some of you have arrived there this year without realizing it, the attack against you becomes structurally useless. It can still hurt. It can still cost. It cannot achieve its objective. Its objective was never your discomfort. Its objective was your defection, and you did not defect. The fourth thing God is saying is this: being seen by heaven is not the same as being applauded by earth, and you must learn to live on the first one. Nobody on that plane applauded when the three men stayed standing. There was no crowd shouting encouragement. Thousands of faces were on the ground, and three people were exposed, visible, absurd, alone. From the outside, their courage looked like foolishness. And the truth is, in the moment when courage is actually happening, it almost never looks noble. It looks like stubbornness. It looks like poor judgment. It looks like a person who cannot read the room. You may have had a moment like that recently. A meeting where you should have laughed along and did not. A conversation where you should have agreed and could not. A form you should have signed and would not. A rumor you could have passed on and refused, and nobody praised you for it. In fact, it may have cost you something, and you have been quietly asking whether you were noble or just naive. Heaven saw, that is the answer. Heaven saw, and heaven does not need a crowd to confirm a verdict. The fifth thing God is saying is this: your enemy has already told you how much you matter by how hot he made the furnace. Nebuchadnezzar did not need a furnace 7 times hotter. A normal furnace kills a person perfectly well. The extra heat was not efficiency. It was rage. It was an emotional reaction to having been publicly resisted by 3 men with no army and no leverage. There is something you should understand about the intensity you have been experiencing. Disproportionate opposition is a form of testimony. When the resistance in your life is wildly out of scale with the size of your position, your income, or your platform, that is information. It means something is being defended that you cannot yet see, and something is being feared that you have not yet become. Nobody fights that hard over a person who is going nowhere. The sixth thing God is saying is this: the evidence of your deliverance will be found on your body, not in your feelings. When they came out, the officials of the empire crowded around them and inspected them. And what convinced an entire government was not a speech and not an emotion. It was hair that was not singed, garments that were not scorched, and no smell of fire. Feelings are not reliable witnesses in a furnace. The 3 men almost certainly felt the heat, felt the terror, felt the falling. What they did not carry out was damage. And I want to encourage you to start assessing your own life the way those officials assessed theirs, by evidence rather than by mood. Are you still praying, even badly? Then your faith was not burned. Are you still capable of a tenderness toward another human being? Then your heart was not burned. Are you still telling the truth? Then your integrity was not burned. Are you still getting up in the morning to do the boring, unglamorous, faithful thing? Then your character was not burned. You may feel like a ruin. Check your garments. They are not scorched. And the seventh thing God is saying, the one I most want to leave with you before we move on, is this. He was in there before you arrived. The fourth figure was not thrown in. There is no record of a fourth man being bound and carried by soldiers. He simply was there, walking when the king finally looked. Which means the presence of God in your fire did not begin when you noticed it. It did not begin when your faith improved. It did not begin when you finally prayed the right prayer with the right words in the right posture. He was already in there. You just had not looked up yet. And when you finally do look up, in the middle of the very worst of it, and see that you are not alone and have not been alone, something breaks in the fire's authority over you. Not because the temperature changes, because you do. Now let us bring this all the way down to the ground, to your kitchen table, to your phone, to the number in your bank account, to the person whose name still makes your stomach turn over. I want to give you the specific signs that an attack against your life has already lost its power, and beside each sign, something practical to do. The first sign, the fire could not change your garments. Look at the parts of you that everyone said would be gone by now. Do you remember the version of you that existed before this season began? People assumed that after everything, you would be hard by now. Bitter, cynical, loud in the wrong way, and yet here you are, still able to be moved by a kind word, still tearing up at things that are beautiful, still praying for people who did not deserve it. If you have been through fire and you are still tender, you are not weak. You are supernaturally intact. What to do? Tonight, write down 3 ways you are still the person you were before this started. Not 3 achievements. 3 character traits that survived. Keep that list somewhere you can find it on a bad day, because on the bad days you will not be able to remember any of them. The second sign, the smell of the old fire is fading. There is a season after any great trouble when everything you say is somehow about the trouble. Every conversation bends toward it. Every new person you meet gets the story within 20 minutes. That is normal, and there is no shame in it. But there comes a day when you notice you got through an entire afternoon without rehearsing it. That is not denial. That is healing. The 3 men came out with no smell of fire on them. Their clothes were not perfumed with what had almost killed them. The furnace did not become their identity. What to do? Begin to introduce yourself, even in your own mind, by something other than your worst season. You are not the layoff. You are not the divorce. You are not the diagnosis. You are not the thing that person did to you. The third sign, the ropes are already off, even though the room is still hot. This is for the one under financial pressure. I am talking to the person whose hours were cut and who has been doing arithmetic in the dark, moving the same amount of money around in your head, trying to make it cover the rent and the electricity and the one bill you have already delayed twice. I know you have opened that banking app and closed it again without looking. I know you have felt shame in a shop over something small. I know how heavy it is to be the one who used to be able to help others and now cannot. Hear me. Your circumstances are still hot, but look at your hands. You are not bound. You have not stolen. You have not lied on a form. You have not let the pressure turn you into someone who takes what is not theirs. You are still tithing something, even if it is small. You are still helping someone, even now. The ropes of desperation are off you even while the temperature is unchanged. What to do? This week, do one specific act of order in your finances, however small. Open the app and actually look at the number. Write out the real figures on paper. Call the one creditor you have been avoiding and ask about a plan. Not because the number will change tonight, but because fear grows in the dark and dies in daylight. And then give something away. Even a tiny amount on purpose is an act of defiance against the spirit of scarcity that has been talking to you. The fourth sign, they needed help to move you. The three men did not walk into the furnace on their own. It took the strongest men in the king's army to bind them and carry them there. Nobody in your life has been able to make you quit by ordinary means. It has taken extraordinary effort to try to move you. This is for the one healing after betrayal. I am talking to the person who was spoken against by someone they trusted, and it may well be someone you trained, someone you covered for, someone you defended in a room where they were not present. And then a story about you began to travel, and you learned about it late. It had already been believed by people whose opinion mattered to you. I know the particular loneliness of walking into a workplace where the air has changed. I know what it costs to keep being professional and warm and competent while your name is being handled carelessly in rooms you are not in. And I know that the worst part is not even the lie. The worst part is that you now second-guess your own kindness, and you wonder whether being open was a mistake, and something in you has started to close. Do not let it close. That closing is the actual objective of the attack. The lie was only the delivery mechanism. What to do? Refuse to build your defense out of the same material they used. Do not counter a rumor with a rumor. Speak the truth once, plainly, to the one person who genuinely needs to hear it, and then let it go and let time do what time does with lies, which is dissolve them. And write down the name of the person who hurt you and pray for them out loud once. It will feel physically difficult. Do it anyway. That prayer is not for them. It is the fire burning the rope off your wrist. The fifth sign. You are meeting someone in the fire you had not met before. Almost everyone who has walked through something severe reports the same strange thing afterward. They will tell you that they hated the season and would not repeat it for anything. And then they will tell you, more quietly, that they met God in it in a way they never had before. This is for the one sitting beside a hospital bed. I am talking to the person waiting on results, the one who has learned the hospital parking system by heart, who knows which corridor has the vending machine that works, who has become fluent in a medical vocabulary they never wanted to learn. I am talking to the one who is holding it together for everybody else, giving the calm updates to the family group, being the steady one, and then falling apart in a stairwell for 4 minutes before, fixing their face and going back in. There is a fourth figure in that corridor, with you, not metaphorically, actually. The peace you have felt at 3 in the morning when there was no reason on earth to feel peace was not your own manufacture. You are not that strong. That was him. What to do? Stop being the strong one for 1 hour this week. Tell one person the true version. And when you pray, stop performing. You are allowed to say to God, I am terrified and I do not understand you right now. That is not a lack of faith. That is intimacy. Look at the Psalms. Half of them are complaints addressed to God by people who never once considered leaving him. The sixth sign. The accusation has become your platform. The 3 men were promoted in the province of Babylon at the end of the chapter, and the promotion came directly out of the accusation. The very envy that dragged them before a king put them in front of a king. Watch for this in your own life over the next season. Watch how the door that was slammed forces you toward a corridor you would never have chosen. Watch how the job you lost frees you for the work you were made for. Watch how the person who excluded you inadvertently removed you from a room that was going to cost you your soul. What to do? Stop trying to get back into the room you were pushed out of. Ask God a different question. Not, how do I return? But, what were you removing me from? The seventh sign. The The music plays and you do not go down. This is the simplest one and the most important. There is still a sound in your life that everyone else bows to. It may be the sound of what everyone in your family has always done. It may be the sound of a culture that says everyone is doing it. Be reasonable. It may be the sound of a compromise that would fix your money problem this month. And the music plays and you are still standing there, awkward, exposed, visible, wondering why you cannot just be like everybody else. Beloved, you cannot be like everybody else because you are not everybody else. You are a chosen one. You have been set apart, and set apart people always look strange during the song. What to do? Name your golden image out loud. What is the specific thing you are being asked to bow to right now? Name it, and then say aloud, "But if not, I will still not bow." Say it tonight, even if your voice shakes. Especially if your voice shakes. If something in what is being poured out here has added life to your faith today, would you press the like button right now? Not as an obligation, but as a simple, genuine response to something that touched you. And if you know someone who is sitting with forgotten promises, someone who has been waiting so long that hope has started to feel like a luxury they cannot afford, please share this video with them today. Your share might be the exact thing that God uses to remind them that their promise is still alive, still moving, still coming. If you are not yet part of this community through subscription, this is the moment to click subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the flow of what God is releasing through this channel is not stopping here. There is more coming. There is always more coming. And you do not want to miss a single word of what heaven is preparing to say through this space in the days and weeks ahead. And for those who feel genuinely led to support this ministry in a tangible way, this channel exists without advertising, without platform income, carried entirely by the grace of God and the generosity of those who believe in what is being built here. If something in your heart says yes, the details for how to give are in the description below and in the pinned comment. Every gift, regardless of its size, is prayed over and received with genuine, heartfelt gratitude. And if giving is not where you are right now, your presence and your prayers for this ministry are a gift that cannot be measured in any currency this world recognizes. Let me tell you about a man I will call Elias, and as I tell it, listen for yourself in it. Because I did not write this story about a hero. I wrote it about somebody very much like you. Elias was 44 years old and had worked at the same distribution warehouse for 11 years. He was a floor supervisor. He was not important in any way that a magazine would recognize. He knew where everything was. He knew which of the forklifts pulled to the left. He knew that Marta on the night shift had a daughter with asthma, and that if her phone rang after 10 at night, she needed to take it, and he covered for her without making her ask. He had trained a younger man named Devin. Devin had come in at 23, restless and clever and impatient, and Elias had spent 2 years teaching him the system, the paperwork, the way to talk to drivers so they would tell you the truth about a late delivery. Elias had gone into the manager's office twice to argue for Devin's pay rise. Devin had eaten dinner at Elias's table. 3 things happened to Elias inside of one autumn. The first was that the company restructured and cut his shift hours by nearly 1/3. Not a redundancy, just less. Enough less that the arithmetic in his house stopped working. Elias sat at the kitchen table on a Tuesday night with the bills fanned out in front of him and did the sum 4 separate times, hoping it would come out differently, and it did not. He remembers looking at the electricity bill and feeling something he had never felt in 11 years of work, which was fear about a number that small. The second was that his mother who was 71, went into hospital with a shadow on a scan and a long word that Elias had to ask the doctor to spell twice. They took a biopsy. They said the results would take between 10 and 14 days. Elias drove home from that appointment and sat in the car in his own driveway for 20 minutes because he could not make his face ready to go inside and be normal in front of his wife. The third was Devin. An inventory discrepancy appeared. Stock that had left the building without paperwork over several months, a quiet, steady bleed. When the audit came, Devin was interviewed early, and Devin, frightened, protecting himself, mentioned that Elias had access to the override codes and had been under financial strain lately and had asked recently about advances on pay. Every single piece of that was technically true. Assembled that way, it was a knife. Elias found out on a Thursday. He was called into an office and asked, with careful language and an unfamiliar person from head office present, to account for himself. And in that room he understood, from the shape of the questions, that people who had known him for 11 years were now looking at him as a possibility. He went back onto the floor afterward and finished his shift. That is the part I want you to hold. He finished his shift. He signed off the delivery sheets. He told the driver about the pallet on Bay 4. His hands were shaking and he finished his shift. That night he did not pray beautifully. He stood in the shower with the water running and said, "God, I have served you since I was 19. I have not stolen from anybody. My mother is sick, my money is gone, and now they think I am a thief. Where are you?" And he did not get an answer, and he went to bed, and he got up the next morning and went to work. Over the following weeks, 3 separate things were offered to Elias, and each one played like music, and each one asked him to bow. The first came from a man he knew, who could get him weekend cash work that was not declared. It would have covered the gap almost exactly. Elias thought about it for 4 days. He thought about the electricity bill, and then he said no, and could not fully explain to his wife why, and there was a difficult silence in the house for a while afterward. The second was the chance to defend himself by damaging Devin. Elias knew things. He knew about the hours Devin had claimed and not worked. He knew about the deliveries Devin had signed off blind. One sentence in the right room would have moved the entire investigation onto Devin and off him. He drafted that sentence in his head 100 times, lying in the dark. He never said it. The third was the quietest and the hardest. It was the invitation to stop believing, not dramatically, just to let it go the way you let go of an old friendship slowly by not calling. To stop praying because praying had produced nothing. To be a reasonable man who had once believed things. He did not bow to any of the 3, not because he felt strong. He told me later, in the way people tell you these things, that he felt nothing at all through most of it, that faith in that season was not warm. It was simply a decision he kept making because he did not know who he would be if he stopped. The results came back on a Friday. Benign, slow-growing, treatable, monitored. His mother cried on the phone and then immediately asked whether he had eaten. The investigation concluded 7 weeks later. The audit trail on the override codes was time-stamped, and the timestamps did not match Elias's shifts. They matched someone else's. Elias was cleared entirely. Devin left the company before the outcome was announced, and Elias never saw him again. And the last thing he did about Devin was pray for him by name, out loud, in his car, in the car park. And he said it was the hardest thing he did that entire year. Now here is the part of Elias's story that matters most, and it is the reason I am telling it to you. Elias's money did not come back that year. His hours were restored partially, 6 months later. He never received an apology from head office. He was never publicly cleared in front of the people who had watched him being walked into that room. Some of the people on that floor probably still half wonder about him to this day. So was he delivered? Look at what came out of the fire. He came out of it without having stolen. He came out of it without having destroyed a younger man to save himself. He came out of it still praying. He came out of it with a marriage that had been strained, and then, having survived the strain, was stronger and more honest than before. He came out of it having discovered that his identity was not actually made of his job title, and he had genuinely believed it was until that autumn tested it. And he came out of it with something else that he could not have bought at any price. He came out of it knowing, from the inside, not from a sermon, that God had been with him in the room where they questioned him. There was a moment in that room, he said, right in the middle of the worst of it, when he felt an inexplicable steadiness settle over him. He described it as the strangest thing that had ever happened to him. He was terrified and calm simultaneously, and the calm was not his. That was the fourth figure. The fire had cost him something, but upon his body the fire had no power. His hair was not singed. His garments were not changed. 11 years of character walked out of that furnace intact, and the only thing that burned off him was the belief that his security had ever been located in a company, a payslip, or the good opinion of a room. Beloved chosen one, this is where I want you to find yourself tonight. If you are counting money in the dark, you are Elias at the kitchen table on Tuesday. If you have been spoken against by someone you built up, you are Elias walking back onto the floor to finish his shift. If you are waiting on a hospital, you are Elias sitting in his own driveway getting his face ready. And if you have said no to the easy money, no to the revenge, and no to quietly letting go of God, then you are also Elias standing on the plain of Dura while the music plays and everybody else goes down. Heaven saw your courage today. Not the courage you felt. The courage you enacted, in a shift you finished, in a sentence you did not say, in a form you did not falsify, in a prayer you prayed badly in the shower with the water running, so nobody would hear you. The attack came for your integrity and did not get it. It came for your gentleness and did not get it. It came for your faith and did not get it. Which means, whatever else is still unresolved in your circumstances tonight, on the only battlefield that ultimately mattered, it has already lost. I want to bring you back to the plain of Dura one more time, but this time I do not want you to look at the fire. I want you to look at the king. Nebuchadnezzar rose up in haste. That detail is easy to miss, but it is one of the most human moments in the entire chapter. This was a man who did not rise in haste for anything. Kings of that stature moved slowly, deliberately, surrounded by people whose entire job was to make sure nothing startled him. And yet something in that furnace made him jump to his feet so quickly that his own counselors had to confirm what he thought he was seeing. He asked the question twice because his mind could not hold what his eyes were reporting. Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? Yes, true, O king. Then how is it that I see 4 men, loose, walking, unhurt? Beloved, I want you to understand what actually astonished that king, because it was not the survival. Survival can be explained away. What undid him was the company. It was the sight of someone walking beside his prisoners who had not been thrown in with them. This is the center of everything I want to say to you tonight. You have spent a long season believing that your suffering proved your abandonment. I understand why. When the fire is real and the ropes are real and the fall is real, it is the most natural thing in the world to conclude that you have been left to face it by yourself. Every voice around you, and sometimes the voice inside your own head, has whispered the same accusation. If God loved you, this would not have happened. If God saw you, He would have stopped it. If God cared, the furnace would never have been lit. I need to tell you plainly that this is the lie the enemy has always used since the very beginning, and it is the same lie whispered in the garden. Did God really say? Does God really care? Has God really seen you? It is the oldest trick there is, to take the presence of pain and use it as proof of absence. But look at the furnace again. God did not stop the fall. He walked into the fall. That is not a smaller kind of love. It is a deeper one. Think about what it means that the form of the fourth was like the Son of God. Long before Bethlehem, long before a manger, long before a cross, God had already established His pattern. When His people are in the furnace, He does not remain outside directing rescue efforts from a distance. He enters. He has never once, in the entire span of Scripture, asked His people to suffer somewhere He was not willing to go Himself. And centuries after Nebuchadnezzar stood that plain, God died exactly what the furnace foreshadowed. He put on flesh and walked directly into the worst thing that has ever been done to a human being: an unjust trial, a false accusation, betrayal by someone who had eaten at His table, a sentence carried out in full, nails, thorns, the entire weight of it. He did not stop at the edge of that suffering either. He went all the way through it. He was placed in a tomb the way the three men were, placed in a furnace, bound, sealed, apparently finished. And on the third day the tomb could not hold Him, the same way the fire could not hold them. Do you see the pattern now, stretching across the whole of the story God is telling? The furnace could not keep them. The tomb could not keep Him. And whatever furnace you are standing in tonight, whatever tomb your circumstances have sealed you into, it does not have the final word either. I want to speak now directly to the part of you that has quietly stopped expecting anything to change. I know that part exists. It exists in almost everyone who has suffered for a long time. It is not unbelief exactly. It is exhaustion wearing the clothes of realism. It tells you, be sensible. Stop hoping. Protect yourself from disappointment by expecting nothing. Beloved, that voice is not wisdom. It is fatigue, and fatigue makes a terrible theologian. God has never once asked you to manufacture your own hope out of nothing. He has only ever asked you to receive the hope He already provided, in the person of someone who has already walked through fire and come out the other side of it, and who is walking through yours right now, at this very hour, while you listen to this message. You are not alone in the parking lot after the appointment. You are not alone at the kitchen table doing the arithmetic again. You are not alone in the meeting where your name was handled without care. You are not alone in the hospital corridor. The fourth figure is already there. He was there before you arrived, which means He was there before you even knew you would need Him. And here is the truth I most want you to carry out of this message tonight. He has never once abandoned you. Not for 1 hour. Not for one silent season. Not for one unanswered prayer. Not for one delay that felt like rejection. The Scripture says in Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 6, "Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, He it is that goes with you. He will not fail you nor forsake you." That is not poetry written to comfort people in easy seasons. That is a promise written to people about to walk into conquest and battle, people who had every reason to be afraid, and God did not tell them the battle would be canceled. He told them who would be walking beside them in it. I think of the writer of Hebrews, who takes that exact promise and applies it directly to ordinary struggling believers centuries later, saying, "Let your conduct be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. For He has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you." That promise did not expire in the wilderness. It did not expire in Babylon. It has not expired in your living room tonight. I want you to notice something about the three men after they came out of the furnace. The king inspected them, and then, in verse 30, he promoted them. But before the promotion, there is a detail almost nobody preaches on. The king made a decree that any people, nation, or language which spoke anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be cut in pieces, and their houses made a dunghill. Think about what that means. The very empire that had built a golden image and demanded worship of it was now, by decree of its own king, forbidden from speaking against the God these three men served. The mouth that had condemned them to the furnace was now legally required to protect their testimony. That is what heaven does with an attack that has lost its power. It does not merely neutralize it. It sometimes turns the very structure that was used against you into a structure that now defends you. I do not know exactly what that will look like in your life. I do not know if it will be the coworker who spread lies about you, eventually being the one who has to defend you in a room you are not present for. I do not know if it will be the financial hardship that taught you a discipline your children will inherit for 3 generations. I do not know if it will be the illness that becomes, years from now, the very reason you are able to sit beside someone else in a hospital corridor and know exactly what to say, because you have walked that corridor yourself. But I know the pattern. Scripture is consistent about this from Genesis to Revelation. What the enemy intends for harm, God is relentless about repurposing for good. Joseph said it to his own brothers, the ones who had sold him into slavery, years after the fact, when he finally had the power to destroy them and chose instead to weep over them. You thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring it to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. That sentence sits in Genesis chapter 50 verse 20, and it has never stopped being true of the way God works. So hear me clearly, in the center of this message, in the place where I most want the truth to land. Heaven saw your courage today. Not your composure, your courage. The small, unglamorous, exhausted courage of getting up and finishing the shift, of not saying the sentence that would have destroyed someone else to save yourself, of praying badly in a shower with the water running, of writing out the real numbers on paper even though it terrified you, of forgiving out loud even though your voice shook. And every attack that has come against you this year, whatever shape it wore, has already lost the one thing it was actually trying to take. It could burn the ropes. It could not touch what was inside them. You are still here. You are still listening. You are still, somehow, after everything, willing to believe that God is good. That is not a small thing. That is the fire having no power over you. Subscribe if you have not already done so that when God moves through the next message, you are in the room to receive it. Like this video as a declaration that you are in agreement with what heaven is releasing through these words. These are small acts with significant spiritual weight, and they also help ensure that this content continues to find the people who need it most. And from the most honest place we know how to speak from, we want to say something to you about this channel and what it takes to keep it going. This channel is not monetized. We do not receive revenue from the time you invest in watching. We have made that choice deliberately because we believe the purity of what is spoken here is worth protecting, and we never want the pressure of performance to shape what God is asking us to say. But the work of preparing these messages, of praying and seeking and crafting every word with the care that the chosen ones who receive them deserve, is real labor that requires real resources. We are not asking from a place of pressure. We are sharing from a place of transparency. If this work has genuinely added something to your life, if these messages have met you in seasons where you needed to know that heaven had not forgotten you, and if your heart feels freely and genuinely moved to help carry this work forward, there is a link in the description and in the pinned comment below, through which you can offer a voluntary contribution. No amount is too small. No expectation accompanies it. We are grateful beyond what words can adequately express for every person who chooses to be part of keeping this going, and we hold every act of generosity and every prayer offered for this ministry with equal and genuine thankfulness. I want to slow down now and put scripture directly in front of you, the way you might hand someone a lamp before they walk down a dark hallway. These are not decorations. They are load-bearing. I want you to let each one settle before we move to the next. The first is Isaiah chapter 43, verse 2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon you. Notice again what this verse does not promise. It does not promise dry ground. It does not promise a fire that never gets lit. It promises companionship inside the difficulty and protection of your essential self while inside it. The waters will be real. You will still be you when you come out the other side. The second is Daniel chapter 3, verse 17, the very words of the three men themselves. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. I want you to notice the structure of that sentence. Able comes first, will comes second. They establish the character of God, his ability, before they claim the outcome. That order matters. When your prayers feel unanswered, it is worth returning to the ability of God before you demand the specific outcome you are hoping for. His ability is not in question, even on days when the outcome is still hidden from you. The third is Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. This verse is often quoted too quickly, as if it means every hard thing is secretly good in itself. It does not say that. It says all things work together. The way ingredients that are individually bitter, flour and raw eggs and unsweetened cocoa, work together in an oven to become something entirely different from any one of them alone. Your circumstances right now may be one of the bitter ingredients. That does not mean the recipe is finished. The fourth is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, cast down, but not destroyed. I love this verse because of how honest it is. It does not deny the trouble. It does not deny the perplexity. It does not pretend the persecution did not happen. It simply insists that none of those things get the final word. Troubled, yes. Distressed, no. Cast down, yes. Destroyed, no. That is the exact shape of what happened in the furnace. Bound, yes. Burned, no. The fifth is Psalm chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is near to them that are of a broken heart, and saves such as are of a contrite spirit. I want you to notice where God places himself in this verse. Not near to the triumphant, not near to the composed, near to the broken. If your heart feels cracked open tonight, this verse is not describing you as far from God. It is describing you as exactly where he draws closest. The sixth is Nahum chapter 1, verse 7. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows them that trust in him. I want to highlight the phrase, he knows them that trust in him, not merely knows about, a sense of information, but knows in the deep biblical sense, the way a shepherd knows his own sheep by their particular walk and voice, among 100 others that look alike. You are not one anonymous case among billions to him. He knows you specifically, the way you know the sound of your own child's footsteps on the stairs. The seventh is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. I want to close this section on this verse, because I think fear has probably been the loudest voice in your house lately. Fear about the money, fear about the test results, fear about what people are saying. And this verse does not shame you for feeling fear. It simply reminds you of what spirit fear did not come from. It gives you 3 replacements: power, love, and a sound mind. And I want to suggest that you can ask for these 3 things by name, specifically, tonight, in your own words, and expect God to answer that particular prayer, because it is the prayer that matches exactly what He has already promised to give. 7 verses, 7 witnesses. Not one of them denies the fire. Every single one of them insists the fire does not have the final say. I want to give you one more, because it belongs so precisely to the theme of this title that I cannot leave it out. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 through 9 says, Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about, seeking whom he may devour, whom resist steadfast in the faith. Notice the word roaring. A roar is designed to produce fear before any actual contact is made. Much of what has been attacking you may have been more roar than bite, more intimidation than actual capacity to destroy. And the instruction is not complicated. Resist, steadfast in the faith. Which means the very faith that has felt so small and so tired this year, the faith you have barely been holding on to with your fingertips, is the exact substance Scripture identifies as sufficient to resist a roaring lion. You do not need more faith than you have tonight. You need to keep using the faith you already have, the way the 3 men did not need extraordinary faith to refuse the golden image. They needed only the faith to say, But if not, we still will not bow. That is a sentence anyone exhausted, anyone frightened, anyone uncertain of the outcome can still say. Say it with me now, quietly, in your own words, in whatever version fits your particular furnace tonight. Even if the money does not come this month, I will not bow to despair. Even if the results are not what I am hoping for, I will not bow to bitterness. Even if that person never apologizes, I will not bow to revenge. Even if the door never reopens, I will not bow to the belief that I have been forgotten. That sentence, prayed honestly, is the exact posture that heaven watched on the plain of Dura, and it is the exact posture heaven is watching in you tonight. There is a kind of healing that happens quickly, and there is a kind that happens slowly, in layers, the way a wound closes from the inside outward, leaving the surface tender long after the deep part has mended. I want to talk to you about the second kind, because I suspect it is the kind you actually need right now. You are not going to wake up tomorrow with every question answered. The money situation may still be unresolved for weeks. The person who wronged you may never explain themselves. The medical situation may still require more waiting than you feel able to bear. Healing, real healing, does not usually arrive as a single dramatic moment where everything is suddenly fixed. It arrives as a slow return of trust, one small decision at a time, until one day you notice that you are breathing differently than you were a season ago. The first layer of healing is permission. Permission to stop performing wellness for the people around you. You have been so good for so long at reassuring everyone else. You answer, "I am fine, thank you, and how are you?" before the other person has even finished asking. I want to release you from that habit tonight, at least here, in this quiet space between us. You do not have to be fine for me. You can simply be honest. The second layer of healing is grief. I want to say something that might surprise you. Grief is not the opposite of faith. Grief is what faith looks like when it is being honest about loss. The three men, before they were ever thrown into the furnace, must have grieved something. Perhaps the life they had known before captivity. Perhaps friends who had already bowed to easier gods. Perhaps simply the unfairness of being punished for refusing to do wrong. Grief does not disqualify you from being used by God. David grieved. Job grieved for chapters at a time. Jesus himself wept at the tomb of a friend he was about to raise from the dead, which tells you something remarkable, that even certain hope does not erase present sorrow. You are allowed to grieve what this season has cost you, even while you trust God with what comes next. The third layer of healing is releasing the need to understand everything before you can move forward. So much of your exhaustion has come from trying to solve the riddle of why. Why did the hours get cut now, at the worst possible time? Why did Devin say what he said? Why did the shadow appear on that particular scan? Some of those questions do not have answers you will receive on this side of eternity. And I want to gently tell you that you are allowed to walk forward without the answer. Faith has never required a complete explanation. It requires a willing next step. The fourth layer of healing is learning to receive help without shame. If you have spent this season being the strong one, the one who holds the family group together, the one who reassures everyone else, I want to challenge you tonight. Let someone carry something for you this week. Let someone bring a meal. Let someone sit with you in the waiting room without you having to entertain them. Receiving is not weakness. It is often the very thing that allows the healing to actually take root. Because isolation, even well-managed isolation, slows every kind of recovery. The fifth layer of healing is forgiveness. And I want to be careful here, because forgiveness has been badly taught in many places, as if it means pretending the wrong did not happen, or restoring a relationship that was never safe. That is not what forgiveness means. Forgiveness means releasing your claim on revenge and handing the debt to God, who is far more capable of handling accounts than you are. You can forgive Devin in whatever form he has appeared in your life without ever speaking to him again. You can forgive the workplace that cut your hours without pretending it was fair. Forgiveness is not for their comfort. It is for the untying of your own hands. The sixth layer of healing is the slow return of joy in small things. Watch for it this week. A meal that tastes good. A song that catches you off guard. A moment of laughter that arrives before you to feel guilty about laughing during a hard season. These small returns of joy are not distractions from your healing. They are evidence of it. The scripture in Nehemiah chapter 8 verse 10 says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." And I want you to understand that this is not a command to manufacture happiness. It is a description of where actual strength comes from. Joy is not the reward waiting at the end of your healing. It is one of the tools that helps carry you through it. The seventh layer of healing, and the deepest one, is surrender, not as defeat but as trust. There is a difference between giving up and giving over. Giving up says nothing will change, so I will stop caring. Giving over says, I do not know how this changes, but I trust the one who does. The three men modeled this exactly. They did not know the outcome. They said, "He is able, and he will deliver us. And if not, we still will not bow." That is not resignation. That is the deepest kind of trust. Trust that does not require a guaranteed outcome in order to remain faithful. I want to say something directly now to your body. Because healing is not only spiritual, it is physical too. And Scripture has never separated the two the way we sometimes do. If you have been carrying tension in your shoulders for months, if you have been sleeping badly, If your stomach has been in knots, I want you to notice that tonight, right now, as an act of awakening, not shame. Take one more slow breath. Let your jaw unclench. Your body has been standing guard for a long time. It is allowed to stand down for a moment while you remember that you are not the one who has to hold everything up. Awakening, in the way I mean it tonight, is not a sudden burst of energy or a dramatic spiritual experience, though sometimes it can be. Most often, awakening looks like a quiet return of clarity. You start to remember who you were before the fire. You start to notice that the ropes really have come off, even if the room is still warm. You start to recognize the fourth figure walking beside you, not because he just arrived, but because you finally looked up. The prodigal son, in the parable Jesus told in Luke chapter 15, has a phrase used about him at the very turning point of his story. When he came to himself, not when his circumstances changed, not when the famine ended. He came to himself in the middle of the pigsty, still hungry, still far from home, and something in him woke up and remembered who his father was. That is the awakening I am inviting you into tonight. Not a change in your circumstances, a change in your recognition. You are still in the field. The famine may still be real, but you are coming to yourself, remembering that you have a father whose house you were never actually cast out of, and that the road home has been open the entire time you have been standing here, wondering if you were still welcome. You are welcome. You have always been welcome. Come to yourself now, beloved, and let us walk the rest of this road together into prayer. And now, as we close this message together, we want to say something from the heart. This channel exists for one reason: to reach the chosen ones who need to hear that God has not forgotten them. Every message, every word, every moment of this work is driven by that single purpose. If this message has been that for you today, if it has met you in a real place and given you something genuine to hold on to, we ask simply that you like this video before you go. That small act tells the platform that this word matters and helps carry it to the next person who needs it as much as you did. Share this message with someone whose name just came to your mind while you were listening. You know who it is. The friend who has been quiet lately, the family member who has been carrying something heavy, the person in your life whose fire has gone low. Send this to them. Let what God gave you today become what God gives them tomorrow. Subscribe to this channel if you are not already here, because this is not the last word heaven has for the chosen ones in this season. Stay connected. Stay in the flow of what is being released. And now we want to be honest with you about something, because you deserve honesty from a channel that has been honest with you about everything else. That means these videos generate no advertising income, no platform revenue of any kind, and yet the work continues, because the chosen ones who need these messages do not stop needing them simply because the platform changed its policies. This work continues as pure ministry, driven entirely by the conviction that the words being released here are reaching the right hearts at the right time. If you have found genuine value in what this channel produces, if these messages have been a companion through your hard seasons and a source of real spiritual strength, and if you feel moved in your heart to help keep this work alive and reaching the ones who need it most, there is a donation link in the pinned comment and in the video description. Every contribution, whatever its size, goes directly into sustaining this ministry and ensuring that the next chosen one who finds themselves in their darkest moment will find a word that was prepared specifically for them. This is never a requirement. It is never a condition of anything. But if this work has meant something to you and you want to be part of keeping it going, Your generosity will be received with more gratitude than these words can adequately hold. Let us pray together now, and I want you to receive these words as your own, spoken in your own voice, even as I say them aloud for you. Father, I come to you tonight exactly as I am, not as I wish I were, not as I will present myself tomorrow to people who need me to be steady. I come tired. I come uncertain. I come carrying numbers that do not add up, and a name that has been spoken against, and a waiting room I did not choose to sit in. I do not bring you a polished version of my faith tonight. I bring you the real one, worn thin in places, but still here. Thank you that you have never once asked me to manufacture strength I do not have. Thank you that you have never required a perfect performance of trust before you would draw near to me. Thank you that you are, even now, nearer to my broken places than to the parts of me that look fine. Lord, I confess that I have sometimes believed the lie that my suffering meant your absence. I have looked at the fire in my life and concluded, quietly, in places I have not said out loud even to myself, that you were somewhere else, that you had turned your attention away, that I had been left to handle this on my own. Forgive me for believing that lie, and heal the part of me that still half believes it even now, even as I pray this. Show me, in whatever way you know I need it, that you have been in this fire with me the whole time. Not observing from a distance, not arriving late after the worst of it was over. Present, walking, loose, unhurried, the whole way through, from the very moment the ropes were tied. For the one among us tonight who is counting money in the dark, Lord, I ask you to be very specific and very near. You know the exact number that will not stretch far enough. You know the bill that has already been delayed twice. You know the shame that shows up in small ordinary moments, in a checkout line, in a conversation about someone else's vacation. Provide, Father, not according to what we can imagine, but according to your own riches. And where provision is delayed, give the kind of peace that does not depend on the bank balance to exist. For the one among us healing after betrayal, Lord, I ask you to guard the tenderness in their heart even now. Do not let this season teach them to stop trusting people altogether. Do not let one person's carelessness with their name convince them that openness itself was the mistake. Heal what was torn, restore what was taken. And where forgiveness feels impossible tonight, plant the first seed of willingness, even if the willingness itself takes time to grow. For the one among us sitting beside a hospital bed or waiting on results that have not yet come, Lord, be the strength behind their strength. Let them set down, even for 1 hour this week, the performance of being fine. Meet them in the corridor, in the waiting room, in the 3 a.m. silence when fear is loudest and the house is quiet. Let them feel, even without being able to explain it, that they are not managing this alone. Father, for every attack that has come against any of us this year, in whatever form it arrived, I ask you to finish what you have already begun. You have already burned the ropes. Finish untying every remaining knot. Let the fire that was meant to destroy become, in your hands, the very fire that refines. Let what the enemy intended for harm become, as it did for Joseph, as it did for the 3 men in Babylon, as it did on a Friday that became the best day the world has ever known, the very means by which good is accomplished. Give us the courage of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, not a courage that guarantees rescue before it speaks, but a courage that says, you are able, and even if you choose not to deliver us the way we hope, we will still not bow to fear. We will still not bow to bitterness. We will still not bow to the golden image of whatever this world tells us we must worship in order to be safe. Lord, awaken us, not into anxiety, but into awareness. Let us see clearly that we were never abandoned, not for 1 hour, not for one silent season, not for one delayed answer. Let us recognize the fourth figure who has been walking beside us the entire time, and let that recognition change the way we carry tomorrow. Heal our bodies where the stress of this season has settled into our shoulders, our stomachs, our sleep. Heal our hearts where disappointment has quietly hardened into something we did not intend to become. Heal our faith where it has grown thin, not by shaming us for its thinness, but by reminding us that even a very small amount, the size of a mustard seed, is enough for you to work with. Thank you for hearing this prayer. Thank you for already knowing every word of it before I spoke it. Thank you that you are, at this very moment, closer than my next breath, closer than the fear I have been carrying, closer than the silence that has felt, at times, like distance. I release my grip tonight on the outcomes I cannot control, and I place them deliberately into your hands, which have never once dropped anything entrusted to. In the name of the one who walked through fire before any of us ever had to, who was sealed in a tomb and did not stay there, I pray. Amen. Beloved, stay in that quiet for one more moment before we move forward. Let it settle. You do not need to rush back into noise. Chosen one, we began this message in the middle of your night, and I want to close it standing with you at the edge of morning, because that is where this story has been leading the entire time. We looked together at a wide, flat plain called Dura, where an entire empire went down at the sound of music, and 3 men stayed standing. We watched them refuse a decree that could have cost them nothing to obey and everything to resist. And we heard them say the sentence that has echoed across centuries: "Our God is able, and even if he does not, we will still not bow." We watched them fall, bound, into a furnace made 7 times hotter than it needed to be. And we watched a king leap from his throne because he counted 4 men where there should have been 3, walking, loose, unhurt, in the middle of the very fire that had killed the soldiers who threw them in. We talked about what that fire actually means for your life. Not that your suffering was imaginary, not that the heat was not real, but that the fire was only ever permitted to touch what was binding you. We talked about the ropes that came off without anyone untying them, about garments that carried no smell of smoke, about a fourth figure who was already present before anyone looked up and noticed him. We told the story of a man carrying financial pressure, a false accusation from someone he had trained, and a mother whose diagnosis was uncertain, all in a single autumn, and we watched him refuse 3 separate invitations to bow, not because he felt brave, but because he kept making the same quiet decision each time the music played, and we watched him come out the other side with his integrity intact, his gentleness intact, and a strange, steady peace in his chest that he never manufactured himself. We sat with 7 scriptures, each one a lamp for a dark hallway, each one refusing to deny the fire while insisting every single time that the fire does not get the final word. We walk through the slow layered work of healing, permission to stop performing wellness, room to grieve, release from needing every answer, willingness to receive help, the difficult grace of forgiveness, the small returns of joy, and the deep surrender that is not defeat but trust. And we prayed together, honestly, naming the specific weight so many of you are carrying tonight, the money that does not stretch far enough, the name that was spoken against carelessly, the waiting room that has become too familiar. Now, before we close, I want to speak very plainly to you about what this message is asking of you, beyond the listening. If anything in tonight's message found you, if some sentence landed in a place you had not let anyone reach in a long time, I want to ask you to do something small and practical. Like this video, not for me, but as your own quiet act of saying, I am still standing, the music played, and I did not go down. Subscribe to this channel, so that the next time the fire gets hot, there will already be a voice waiting here to remind you who is walking beside you in it. Share this message with the one person who came to mind while I was speaking, the friend under financial pressure, the coworker healing after betrayal, the family member sitting in a hospital corridor right now. You may be the exact form the fourth figure takes for them tonight, simply by sending this along with the words, "I thought of you when I heard this." These are not empty requests. Every share moves this message to one more person standing on their own plane of Dura, wondering if they are alone. You have the chance, tonight, to be part of the reason someone else does not bow. And now, before I let you go, I want to bless you the way the king himself, without meaning to, ended up blessing the God of 3 men he had tried to destroy. May you go from this message knowing, in your body, and not only in your mind, that you were never for one moment abandoned. May the ropes that have bound you, whether they are fear or shame, or the belief that you must earn your worth through performance, burn away completely, leaving your hands free and your garments unscorched. May the fire in your circumstances, whatever shape it takes this week, whether it is a number in an account, a name spoken carelessly, or a waiting room chair that has grown too familiar, lose its power over the truest parts of you, your integrity, your gentleness, your capacity to still love and still hope. May you walk out of whatever furnace you are standing in without the smell of smoke on you. Not because the furnace was not real, but because the one walking beside you was more real still. May you recognize, aware that heaven has been watching you the whole time, and that heaven has already recorded your courage, the courage of finishing the shift, of refusing the easy money, of praying badly and honestly in a shower with the water running, of forgiving out loud with a shaking voice. And may you carry this one sentence with you long after this message ends. Whatever came for you today came looking for something it was never going to find, because what it was hunting for was never for sale, and it is not for sale now. Go in peace, beloved chosen one. The night is ending. The music is still playing somewhere on your particular plane, and you are still standing. Heaven saw, and every attack has already lost its power. If this message has given you something today, if it has spoken into a place in you that needed to be reached, we want to invite you gently and sincerely to like this video. Not as a performance metric, not because numbers matter more than people, but as your personal agreement with what has been. Spoken here, your simple declaration that this word was real and it found you and you receive it. Subscribe to this channel so that the next message heaven releases through this space finds you ready and waiting. Because what God is saying through this work is not finished, and the word coming after this one may be the one that finally brings the breakthrough you have been standing at the edge of for longer than you should have had to wait. And if you feel something deeper stirring in you, if gratitude has moved into a place of genuine desire to be part of keeping this voice alive, we want you to know something honestly and without any pressure attached to it. This channel is not monetized. We do not earn revenue from the views these videos receive. We create because we are called to create, because we believe with everything in us that these words are finding the right people at the right moments and changing the trajectories of real lives. But creating takes time and resources, and the kind of sustained commitment that is genuinely difficult to maintain without support. If you want to be a part of what this channel is doing in the world, if you want your name spiritually attached to every life that is touched by every future message, there is a link in the description of this video and in the pinned comment below where you can make a voluntary donation of any amount. We receive every contribution with prayer and with a gratitude that goes far beyond words. And we want you to know that even if giving is not something you are able to do right now, your presence here, your prayers for this work, and your willingness to share these messages with the people you love, those things matter to us deeply and genuinely.